Hello, I'm Alan Palmer. Welcome to my home, to my tea room. You can see almost all of it. Today is a wonderful start of winter. Today in Japan, winter begins. Rito, beginning of winter. It's about a month and a half off the Western calendar, which I find very interesting. But I'll try not to get off track as I often do. The row can be open whenever you want. The official opening of the row, called robiraki, row opening, is on the first day of the wild boar in the wild boar month. And that coincides this year with November 16. But you can open the row when you want. It's the celebration. And the celebration of the opening of the row can get quite complicated. Opening the tea jar, the chatsubo, kuchikiri, opening the mouth, well, cutting the mouth. I can't resist. There was an exhibition of tea utensils at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And they had Sotan's chashaku, which was named kuchikiri. They did not translate it. They translated almost everything, but kuchikiri, mouth cut, needs an explanation. They should have had an explanation. Anyway, so opening the row, lots of other things happen too. Repairs are made in shoji. You replace the square, you don't put a maple leaf on it. You could put a maple leaf, paper maple leaf on the hole or the tear, but that square should be renewed. Bamboo in the garden that looks shabby, that should be replaced. Not the whole thing, just the pieces that have sort of gone off. It's exciting. It's our new year. We have the new rice, the new beans, rice and beans. Yes, lots of new things. New Year's, Shogatsu in January, or if you celebrate the lunar, that's later on, and a lot of things can be replaced at that time, including tatami. So the tatami, I have 4 squares of tatami, and one of them has the row cut in it. I can move it around, but the heady, the fabric binding, ends up in an odd place if I want to put the row over in the corner of the temaiza or in the right side of the temaiza. It really is most suited for, I think, what you can see over my shoulder. Well, you'll see in a little bit. Yes, the floor level is higher than the top of the row. The top of the row fits in a hole, and the floor above it has an opening that's 14 sun. The length of the hishaku is 14 sun, kane jaku. So that piece of wood, that floorboard, can be replaced. You don't move the row around. I move mine from time to time. I'm getting to the age where I have to probably invite somebody in to help me do it. The tatami that fits around the row hides behind clothing in my closet, and so everything has to come out. I'm not complaining, it's just observation. So opening of the row. In my research and preparing for this, I find things all the time that just absolutely amaze me. And one of them, I'll show a picture of it later, is that the depth of the robuchi is thicker than the tatami. My tatami are Tokonoma size, thickness tatami. They're not the full tatami height. So it's deeper. And I just found out that it's not centimeters. The dimension was given in centimeters. And those of you who know me know that I measure everything. Well, I learned that it's the height of the robuchi is the height of a Rikyugata Chu Natsume, 1.8 sun kujira jaku. Unbelievable. Also, imai. Imai is where you sit when you're going to make tea. In furo, we sit straight forward, facing the utensils, and then we can turn a little bit toward the guest, which is generally toward the right. We also, in reverse settings, we would turn to the left to the guests. And also we can turn away from the guests, whichever direction that would be, toward the wall, toward the kate, the kitchen, the museum. Well, the role placement is so curious because in furo, the furo is on the left. Well, long ago, before the row, some excitement outside. I wonder what that could mean. But originally, there are drawings that the furo was on the other side. And the furo in other situations was enormous, huge. Well, not that huge. But when tea got smaller, meaning in rooms, not in temples, but in living rooms, so to speak, everything was reduced, more suited to the size of the tatami. And the tatami varies in size as well, as we know. 3 essential sizes: Kyoto size, middle Kyoto size, and Edo size. Well, there are others, but. So furo imai, I realized I don't know where I'm looking either in furo. I know where I'm looking in row, and that's what I want to share with you today. But I really don't remember, could be this, I really don't remember where they told me to look except at that corner over there, where the corner of the row would be now, that general area. But just turn left. And I've told my students and myself, well, to aim to where the futaoki used to be. I don't remember ever being told, but I certainly was told where to look with row. Uchizumi or sotozumi, the row buchi, the frame around the row, the inner corner and the outer corner. So these differences in imai are based on formality. When in furo, we're looking straight forward north. Whether the room is situated that way or not is irrelevant, really. It'd be nice if it did. But you're facing north, and that's where the seat of kami is. The center of the universe is up there, Polaris. So if you turn away, that's less formal. And if you turn completely away, without going into the other temais, turning completely away, you're facing the row itself, and that's when you're building the charcoal fire. That's the least formal, but I found out some interesting things, which I hope I can share with you as time goes by. So inner corner, uchizumi, outer corner, more formal, sotozumi, and then there is something, those of you who have not progressed up to higher temais, it's halfway between the row and the daisu, the formal stand, halfway between. And that's gyo, semi-formal. And then when you get to shin daisu, you're turning to face where the front of the daisu, earthboard, would cross into the kinin tatami, just right there. Well, we'll find out what we're looking at. Good. So let's sort of enter a tea row. The row, the government probably wisely, simplified characters. And the character for the rho, they use both characters. One is quite simple, one is quite complicated. And the one that's quite complicated has hut, fire on one side and hut on the other. Hut. It's a fire hut. Well, it turns out that the character for hut has tiger head as its radical. I'm a tiger. Also a rice field and a dish. I don't know what that all means. Probably pronunciation of some sort. But now it's just fire with the door. The door is more the opening, but I just learned that the character comes from a swinging door. In Japanese doors, generally they swing, but they slide. So it gets complicated. So the guests are arriving in the Yoritsuki, and to sort of have something for them to look at, I have the a sensu that was a gift from Hōnsai Daisosho. This is before he was Daisosho. I know it's a little bit challenging to see, but it has the picture of two Emma, picture horse, Emma, and the one in the middle, which is even harder to see, is an inoshishi, a wild boar. So the hint is that it is the time of the wild boar, even though it isn't, but that's the implication. And then some auspicious greetings on the one in gold. And then there's the writing to end the writing is Hōnsai's cow flower seal. A little bit hard to read, but that's his number 15. And then his name, Soshitsu, looking like little candlesticks. And then Mizuno to I, which Mizuno to is the last of the 10 branches, and inoshishi is the last of the 12 signs. Complex, isn't it? So that's what they see. It's hanging in another part of this room. So our after that, we would go into the Machiai, and in the Machiai, and you can see it here, those of you who can see that it is a shikishi mounted on in a standing kuwa wood frame. And the writing, I realize as I've been collecting things most of my life, really. I started when I was in my early 30s, and that was 50 some years ago. And a lot of my things seem to be related to Buddhism. And I guess I was very impressed by learning very early on that tea and Zen have one taste. Well, Zen is more complicated than just sitting there in quiet, trying to empty your mind. A lot of Buddhism is involved, and this is one. And Kannon is very much a part of tea. Those of you who have been with our lectures previously know that Kannon probably may be sort of near where the teacher would sit, by the Tokubashira, the prominent post of the Tokonoma. That may be related to Kannon, and Kannon is the guardian deity of the north, and this year, the year of the rat. The rats are deserting the ship. So Kannon, the writing starting upper right is myo-on, kanze-on. Myo is wondrous, on is sound, kan is see. It's really more, oh, I see. It doesn't mean actually, it does mean that I actually see you or see the writing, but it's to understand or to perceive. And then ze is world, ze. And then the last character there of the three is sound. Kannon hears, the sound of the world, the sounds of the world. Wondrous sounds. They may be horrible, but she hears them all. She, yes, but Buddhist deities are male deities in female form. Some of the great sutras address that issue. This was written by a nameless monk who was writing on shikishi. That paper is stiffened, like cardboard, and he was a monk at Sanju Sangendo. I got this at Sanju Sangendo. 33, Kannon has 33 manifestations. The building is very long, and it has 33 bays between the pillars. There are also 1,000 images of Kannon aside from her main image. And Sanju-san, 33, is an odd number to me. But then I realized that the emperor's chrysanthemum has 16 petals, but also behind the 16 petals are little glimpses of other petals. So there are 32, plus the center is 33. And Kannon is, like the emperor, so to speak, is everywhere, in all directions, even those in between places. Deng Ge O In, lotus flower king temple. In is the sub-temple. Yes. So, you know, I could spend a long time in the Machiai is the tobacco bone, and the hiire is has a little bit of little touch of sadness to it. This is hagi. It was made by Saka Kodai Zaimon, who visited me here in Boston. And shortly after his visit to Boston, he had a fall and unfortunately died. He was rather young. But this has been kept in a safe place, ready to use it at the appropriate moment. And now is the appropriate moment. And rather than drinking tea from it, steep tea, it warms the hands. That's why I chose this in this cold weather. May not be that cold, but in this cold weather, you can hold on to it, and you should pick it up and hold it as a guest. Very few things are you allowed to do as a guest, picking up things, as it were. And this is one of them. It shows the warmth of the host in the tobacco bone. And then through the garden, we're going to just stop briefly, see one of my favorite pictures of the light reflected. Our square, which is yo, yang, and the circle of water is in. So yo fire, yo light, yo square, water, in, round, in. Very sweet, very wonderful. Hi. And then get it going into the tea room, the Tokonoma. Tokonoma has most important aspect of the Tokonoma is the kakemono. And if this were a chaji, we would have only the Tokonoma filled with the kakemono, of these monos. And the jiku is alone by itself. When you approach the Tokonoma, any Tokonoma, even if it's got, I shouldn't say even, if maybe there's just some beautiful flowers, appreciate them deeply with your spirit, with your heart. With writings, Urasenke likes writings. And this writing begins with enso, a circle. It means nothing or everything. It's continuous, it's a circle. We never seem to have too many circles with objects. The water jar, the kama generally, the tea bowl, the tea container often can be round. And round doesn't seem to be repetitious, but a square or a triangle, that if everything was triangles, it might be a little off-putting. I'm not sure. But there's something wonderful about a circle. And many Buddhists try to make the perfect circle. It doesn't mean perfectly round, it means a perfect circle. And of the 10 pictures of the ox, looking for the ox, it's picture number 8. 8, isn't that interesting? 8, the number of infinity in time for us, 8 on its side. And also 8 is the symbol of infinity in Japanese, the hachi, like the profile of Mount Fuji. Our writing, byo, jo, shin, kore, do. Level, that's hei. Most Japanese would pronounce it hei or hyo, but in Buddhism and in tea, it's byo. And level, flat, even, and then jo is ever, always, constant, ever. And then heart or mind. And then starting again, kore, this, or is, michi, the way, byojo shin kore do. This was an answer to a question, and the question is, I have to read it to remind me of a few things. Yes, the monk Joshu asked Nansen, Southern Spring, how to attain enlightenment. How to attain enlightenment. And Nansen said, the ordinary heart is the way. You have a lifetime to try to figure that out. This was written by the abbot of Yakushiji in Nara, which is an honor to have. It was given to me by my teacher, Mori Akiko Sensei. And the abbot's name is Yamada Ho-in. She asked him to write it, and he did. And she shared it with me. So the toko has some flowers in it, and the hanaire is bamboo. Rikyu, Son-no Rikyu was evidently, according to history, he was the first person to put bamboo flower containers in the Tokonoma. It's a long and very complicated story, at least in my mind, but I think I have an understanding of why. And the first bamboo flower containers placed in the Tokonoma were made after the siege in Odawara with Hideyoshi keeping at bay the Hojo in Odawara Castle. And they sent rice, and the Hojo sent 3 pieces of bamboo, green bamboo, so that the soldiers, Hideyoshi's soldiers, could make knives and commit suicide with green bamboo sword knives. And I think Rikyu took those. We know he took them and turned them into hanaire. So I think they were green when he put them in the Tokonoma. I don't know, it's a long, complicated story. But this one is called, this one is not Rikyu's or Hideyoshi's. This was made by Nishikawa Baigen. And it's chiku, sorry, I have to, shibo chiku. It's has ridges and grooves in it. It grows that way. It's also green and yellow stripes. Well, this is sort of inspired by Rikyu's, one of the Rikyu's, which is called shakuhachi. And Rikyu's does not measure 8. Shaku is a foot and hachi is 8, quote, inches. Rikyu's hanaire, shakuhachi, is not that measurement. It is 8.8 sun kanejaku, thank you. It's named shakuhachi because it's an homage to Ikkyu, who had a shakuhachi that had one node. This has one node. That's what that means. Ikkyu, who died at 87 after reviving Daitokuji, much of which had been burned, long before Rikyu. But this Ikkyu shakuhachi was so renowned, and he played it. He was a curious fellow. That's a whole other lifetime. But it's named shakuhachi for Ikkyu, not Rikyu. Ikkyu's shakuhachi that had one node. So the kogo would be displayed on the tana, often in the, usually for here at my tea room, garando, that I usually have it in the Tokonoma on kaishi. It is now, but I took the picture without it because it was on the tana, which you can see over my right shoulder. We'll get to that in a little while. So I want to go to the next picture, which wouldn't exist ordinarily, of the furo and the ro. We would not see them together, but I wanted to put them together to show the similarities and the differences. The furo is in its usual place on the left, and the ro on the right is in one of the 8 positions that it can be in. And it's in the correct juxtaposition on the right side. Now, I mentioned earlier about originally the furo was on the right side because it was a mirror image. It was on the right-hand wall, close to the wall, just like this is close to the wall on the left, but it was on the right side. I think that this change occurred when they created the ro. The ro outside of the place where you make tea, the next tatami over, caused some strange things to happen when you turn toward that. This again is reversed, so it's toward the left. It's hard to reach it. We do have many ro styles where it is on the left. The ro is on the left. But there are some gestures that feel a little awkward when compared to furo. So they switched. Rikyu's time, they switched it. And I think it was because of the ro. However, the temple presentations with the large furo and the large kama, that was on the right. Mizusashi, water, was on the left. Rather like this arrangement with the ro. Imagine that the furo is the mizusashi. Rather large, odd mizusashi, nonetheless. But that is the arrangement that was in the temple. And those big kama are temple kamas. They're made now in that style. But that size kama was the original temple furo kama. The furo itself, large, often iron, may have disintegrated, fallen apart, couldn't hold it up anymore. So they put it on a trivet in the ro. You can see this will take quite some time. Let me see what's next. Yes, imai in the yojohan. I think we're going to have a picture of imai in the yojohan. This is originally my drawing, and Anthony Crasso, our producer, has produced this, made it more refined rather than my scrawling. This will take a long time to figure out. But let's just look at where the row is. Ideally, it would be exactly in the center of the room, but that would occupy too much of the floor. But it really, I think, should be exactly in the middle. But it isn't. And so the relationship between the kama and the fire and the mizusashi and its water, the teishu, the host, should be exactly between them, just the way it was with furo. And so over the years, probably, they determined, well, the kama of the row is here, and the mizusashi is there, so I want to sit somewhere between the two. Well, if you look at the strong, well, actually, it's the most ephemeral line, which goes, it's a dotted line, and it goes to the center of the back wall of the Tokonoma and the hook where the scroll of enlightenment would be hung. I hope that comes as an amazement to some of you. We've turned away from the most formal direction, which is north. But the next highest place is to look at the scroll. And that's where the hook is. Last time we talked about the hook, get the hook, was found in the Yojohan at the half tatami, which is 30 days, full moon in the center. And the Buddha's enlightenment was on the 8th day of the 12th moon. And if you go to the 8th sun and go back, that's where the hook is. I think, I'm not making this up. I think this is just unbelievable. And now if we look at the Tokubashira, that's in the middle of the top wall, not the Tokonoma, that's separate, but the large black dot, that's to represent the Tokubashira. And that's the location of where Kannon in the north, that's her location. She's identified primarily with water. And the Hane-ire, all with water, are in that area, in that general area. Hashida, the kanji for Hashida, post or pillar, is king with a thing on top. It is the king, the main event, the main thing. And that kanji is used to count Buddhist deities and Shinto deities. Nani nani Hashida. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that Kannon is represented by the Tokubashira. And sensei, teacher, sits in front of that. No one else, not even the king, only the teacher sits there. So that line, that fine dotted line goes right past the Tokubashira to the hook. This takes a long time to consider. Now, building the charcoal fire, you face the fire directly, the kama directly. And I found that if you extend your imai, the teishu's imai, it goes to straight across to the 7th day of the second moon. That's the second moon. Right. Starting in the upper right-hand corner of the Yojohan, of the 4.5 mat room, that post, that's the start of spring. And then the first moon, the second moon, the third moon, and then starting to go west. So that's the second moon, that half tatami. Not February, the second moon. These are moons. This is not the sun calendar. And the center of the row, the center of the kama, the center of the fire is 7 sun kanejaku. Remember, the row is 14 sun wide. So the center is 7. Well, if we draw that 7 to the second moon, that's the 7th day. And those of you who know a little bit about Nara and Nigatsudo, the second month temple, there is a huge water festival that is predominantly torchlit at night. They go in and out of one of the oldest buildings in Japan with torches. People gather along the veranda because the torches are carried around on the outside. This goes on for 7 days. And they want to get sparks from the torches falling on them. I've never done that. I don't know why. I did it up in Kurama. They have a fire festival there. People want sparks on them, so it kind of purifies their spirit of some sort. Anyway, Nigatsudo. So the 7th night is called O Mizutori, gathering the water from the sacred well and offering it to Kannon. So in a way, this water is being, water's in the kama, right? The kama is to hold the water and the fire is to heat the water. And so the water is hot water. And hot water is one manifestation of undifferentiated yin and yang, yin and yang. Fire and water, hot water. When the guests first arrive, they have hot water, not flavored, hot water. I hope you will look at this. I think there's some truth to it. If we look around and look at the top, we have Bishamonten. Bishamonten is one of the deities up at Kurama. First lesson, first lecture, I had 2 little toy tiger, looks like toys, from Kurama. Bishamonten is one of the deities there, and he is the guardian of Kyoto. He is the guardian of the north. So I think he is at the back left post of the Tokonoma, guarding the whole group, as though the tea room were a city. He's one of the 4 kings. He has 2 persons, two manifestations. His other manifestation is Tamonten. He's sort of one of the 4 kings. These are the guardians of the Buddha. They are on the 4 sides of the mountain, which is at the center of the world, Shumisen, which may be Mount Kailash in Nepal. So Tamonten. And look, Sotozumi, those of you who know tea, Sotozumi is the outer corner of the row, and your imai goes right to that post. So in a sense, you're looking north. Someone asked a while back, well, what about row? Because you're turned away. And you're turned away, but maybe not that much. So the southeast corner is Jikoku-ten. That's the 4th month. Some of you have heard this before. I've heard it for the last 40 plus years. And that's the Nijiri-guchi. And on the 8th day, or the 8th sun, that's right in the middle of the Nijiri-guchi. So you're climbing in on the birthday of the Buddha. Going Seishi Bosatsu, She's the companion of Kannon. And so you can see that Kannon Kokuzo Bosatsu is in the northeast. Monju with the guests in the east. Fugen Bosatsu is in the southeast. He rides an elephant. Monju rides a lion. Sorry, my zoo is taking over here. And then Seishi Bosatsu. So you see, Kannon, all these 5 are Bosatsu. They're in transition. They have not yet arrived. They have held back. They want to help us. So they have held back, but they enjoy looking to their becoming Nyorai, fully established Buddhist deities, of which the Buddha, Shaka Nyorai, is his sort of Nyorai title. And then in the southwest corner is Dainichi Nyorai. He is everything. And in the northwest corner is Amida. And Amida is preceded when he comes to get your departed spirit. He comes with Kannon and Seishi. Unbelievable. Fudo may be the host. The host represents maybe the Fudo. Fudo is the active, somewhat scary part. You should be afraid of him. Even though he's loving and kind, he looks ferocious. And he is, in essence, the figurization of yin and yo. He is a complex of positive and negative. But he is related. He is a manifestation of Dainichi. You remember, those of you who have done Chaji, that you are outside the Sadoguchi on the floor. Shokaku invites you in, and dozo hairi kudasai, and then you slide in. You don't walk in, you slide in. Most images of Dainichi are him seated. Not always. Here at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, we have a marvelous image of Dainichi, which the whole Asian collection is being re-evaluated, tended to. So Fudo, one of the most important rituals for Fudo is a fire festival. Festival may not be the right word, goma. And the priest puts in little pieces of wood, not unlike your fan, but pieces of wood with your prayers and wishes and blessings on it that go into the fire. I think we need to go. So let's look at the next picture, which is of the row at my table. The tables are 18 inches high. The stools, which are thone, I think thone is out of business. They were there in the Victorian period and made those extraordinary bentwood rockers. I had one when I was in my 30s or 20s, that's absolutely killing on your back. When you rock back, you think you're going to tip over. It did no good to my back. So don't lean back. So the row. The row is a wooden box. It has a copper lining and it has ash. I have a fire going today. It's a little teeny weeny fire, but that extension, the sort of shelf there, that's hasun wide, 8 sun. We should not get closer to the row, not closer than hasun, 8 sun. So that leaves a little triangle of space there. When Shiotsuki sensei was seated at these tables in a different location, another apartment that I had, she said, just find another place. So we can do all sorts of things with the row. I have another picture, just a little quickie, to show the little pieces of wood that stick out to hold the shelf. You shouldn't lean on it too heavily, but that's the plywood box. The robuchi itself, I mean, these things, friends, these things, this row, I could talk for hours on it. I don't have enough time to do it, but the construction of the robuchi itself is contiguous. Contiguous, is that the right thing? The lengths are not mitered at the joint. They are butt up against it, and they are held together with dovetails, a kind of dovetail. And they go in a manji, just like the yojohan. The one, yes. I think I have a picture of the row. Let me see if I do. Yes, if we could, well, let's go to the kama. Let's start off at the kama next. And this is my Amida Do Gama. This is modeled after Rikyu's, one of Rikyu's favorite, kama, the Amida Do, yes, that Amida. It was I'm not sure exactly the history of this kama, but in the Kobe area, there is a temple, and part of the temple, there is an Amida Do. And this kettle that Rikyu had was from that temple, hence Amida Do. I think it's not a coincidence that the protector of the northwest corner of the tea room, starting from the absolute center of the yojohan, including the row, includes the Amida Do Gama. It seems to be at home. There's also a furo size of the Amida Do. This is the row. This is the row size. And interestingly enough, the artist, the founder, I guess he's a founder, his name is Kikuchi. Kikuchi. The crest of the Sanju Sangendo is 3 chrysanthemums. Chrysanthemum is the center of the realm of Amaterasu, the sun goddess, also the emperor. Little chrysanthemums. Now, to the row. The row is so curious. There's the Natsume, and that's the Kujira Jaku, the Monosashi across it. This is only a couple of days ago that I learned this. I, who measure everything, had never measured with the right tool the height of the robuchi. The width of the top surface of the robuchi is 1 sun, kane, but lacquer is made with kujira, which is bigger. So that's actually hachibu wide. It's the same width as the hedi, the cotton, the fabric binding of the tatami. Well, this arrangement of the rodan is the copper foundation of the row. And those pebbles, I have them here. They are wood ash that was made damp. It was made damp, shimeshibai, which we sprinkle over the ash bed so that it doesn't fly up. And I'm holding up this rock. This rock is wood ash that was wet and got turned into ceramic. This. You cannot break this. You cannot crush this. So all those little pebbles that you see on top are these. Those of you who do sift your ash and wet it and cook it with bancha, hojicha, bancha, and to get the lye out, there's clinkers in that you will not dissolve. It's an absolute mystery. Now, so the opening of the row dan, the row dan, is one shaku kane. But I think, only because it's evident, that most of the measurements outside of the opening of the row itself are done with kujira. So this monosashi here, this kanijaku, this is one shaku. But if these are row measurements done with kujira, it's hasun. Well, that's more auspicious. 8 is more auspicious than 10 in certain circles. Speaking of circles, I was never really happy with putting shimeshibai, spooning it on top of the ash bed, straight line, because it goes right over that left, far left talon of the gotoku. Well, the instructions in the books, it's a little bit curved. So I think that the crest of the ash bed is a circle. When you lay the ash, you drag it up from the corners to make peaks in the middle of each wall, so that you end up with 8 sides. Taking the fukusa, folding the fukusa to make 8 sides. They're half the width of the full length of the full side. And from the bottom of the valley to the top of the peak is gosun, 5 sun. Well, 5 and 5 make 10. So we've gone from 8 to 10. The shikiko, 3 pieces of neriko. Yes, now, just take a little closer look at the robuchi and you see that the join is not beveled. I think beveled is the word. Mitered. It's not mitered. It goes straight through. And you see that the one on the left, the frame part on the left, goes past the side of the one on the top, the opposite side. Interesting that. Very curious. Boxes are not the same. You see that shiny, that's actually a mitered. That's the mitered. Is that the mitered or the, suddenly my brain went fuzzy. I'll have a sip of water. The corner of the frame is taken off and it consoles it, consoles it. It makes it less threatening, I guess. I don't know. It just looks right, looks right. But again, just a little glimpse of that Rikyugata Chu Natsume. It's the same height as the robuchi. I tried to get that plane there where they took off the corner, that's called a mentori. And I really thought that that mentori might be connected to the mentori chaki, that is another one of our utensils, where the tea container is cylindrical and the top corner, so to speak, is planed off. And another one has the bottom one planed off, the fukinuki, not the fukinuki, the fubuki, fubuki. Well, a few years ago, moving on to the tana. I think the tana is next. My good buddy, Thomas Hucker, has been making various things for me for many, many years. And not too long ago, he said, being here in Boston, you know, if there's something that you'd like me to make, please do. So I had 2 pieces of cardboard and made fan cuts in them and used some as the shelf and some as the back wall. So there are 4 fans, sort of the physical one and the non-physical one, the silhouette. So there are 8 fans. Hassen, the Hassen Dana. I like it a lot. Thomas liked it too, and he made one for himself. And we have a couple of pictures of seeing it from a different angle. I love the one on the right. It looks like something completely and totally different. This material is a composite material that is called rich light, L-I-T-E, rich light. And it looks like Thomas is exceedingly skillful in furniture making, but I don't know how this holds together. He shipped it to me in a box and it came as you see it. It doesn't come apart, happily. And I'm just so impressed by his work. But it started out as 2 pieces of cardboard. Hassen Dana. Back up to the mizusashi. When I was a child, my family got a dinner set. Soup bowls and coffee mugs in the 50s. I think it was the 50s, the 40s or the 50s, mugs, coffee mugs. And my parents picked this. I didn't have any say in the matter. I was a little boy, but I fell in love with it. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner on these, not this, but on the full service. It's so Japanese. The side, you can see that looks very Art Deco-ish. The lid, well, the history of this piece is in my days of antiquing, looking through stuff. I saw that cookie jar, cracker jar, at an antique store in downtown Boston. And I said, oh my goodness. Well, that started a disease, and I think I now have in this prairie green about 200 pieces of Frankoma made by Frank and his wife in Ada, Oklahoma. So Frankoma. I like it a lot. It looks very Japanesey to me. And then the Uzuki, because of this fan idea, the fan, of course, is suehiro, that it goes out from a point to infinity. And I had several thoughts of what to use for the Uzuki, for the fin tea container. And oh, the Oi Matsu came to mind because it looks like a fan. It holds quite a lot of tea, by the way. And it was made from a branch that was imperiling the Taian Chashitsu tea hut that was created by Rikyu at the temple of Nyokian in sort of halfway between Osaka and Kyoto. Yes, a little bit extra care in opening and closing the lid, the Oi Matsu, old pine. And the kogo is, I showed it before, but this is a raku piece. It's unsigned. It looks in the raku style, and it's of a Bushukan, Buddha's hand citrus. And they use them in the wintertime for New Year's for the wonderful fragrance that it gives off. Some people eat it, but it's mostly pith. There's almost no juice in these, but the Chinese have loved them. And Riki was asked, well, when do you open the row? Because the row could be open from today until the 16th, on the day of the boar. And so I don't, sorry, And Riku said, well, when the yuzu turns yellow, well, the yuzu is a citrus, wonderful flavor, grown now, I think, and for some time in Southern California. We can get fresh yuzu. And yuzu is, again, doesn't have much juice, but it has a lot of rind, a lot of white rind. And it is used in flavoring. When I visit Japan, I get everything I can that's flavored with yuzu. Some of it has alcohol in it. A chuhai, one of them. It's how can you make something that is essentially undrinkable drinkable? I know people who love shochu. It's an acquired taste. I have acquired a taste for a number of things. That doesn't stand on the top of my list. So the reason I have this citrus fruit is because it is yellow and it reminds me of the yuzu turning yellow. So I usually bring this out when the row is to be opened. For sumi, the feather is comes from the left wing of, in this case, a bean goose. Very, very, there are a lot of bean gooses in China, I guess, because this is a Chinese goose, a bean goose. And it's got 3 feathers and it's wrapped, the handle is wrapped in takenokawa from bamboo everywhere. And its measurement is 11 sun kane jaku. Let me see, that doesn't sound quite right to me. 11 sun kane jaku. Oh, yes, it probably is Kyusun Gobu. Sorry, Hasun. Yes, it's probably Kujira. Measure everything with everything. Every one of you should have a monosashi of kanejaku and kujira-jaku. But the feather, why the left wing feather for something that's on the right? And the furo haboki is the right wing feather. Well, the red, I moved it to clear the runway. The Suzume Gawara, the oil lamp that has been sitting there for most of these lectures. I think, well, it's called the red. Riku wanted his sparrow Suzume Gawara, his sparrow oil lamp, to be red raku. So that is the red sparrow that is the name of the south gate of the Imperial Palace grounds and the name of the main road down the center of capitals was the Suzaku, the Red Sparrow Road. So it's the sparrow's wings that are being used from the other side, not the Teishu side, opposite the Teishu side. So the right feather ends up over at the furo, and the left feather ends up at the road because of the sparrow. Here's some charcoal. The shtabi, starting at the left, shtabi, 3, they may come from the New Year's fire. Then the body, that's the large one. Oh, let me show you something here. This is the furo dozumi. It's 4 sun long. It has to fit between the gotoku. Right? That's one of the reasons why things have to line up. So this is the dozumi for furo, but look at this. Look at this. This is the dozumi. It's 4 sun kujira, But look at how huge that is. Your kama may not require this girth. So you should cut your own charcoal. I know. This is the charcoal I'm using for furo. Made of bamboo, comes from China, used to. Charcoal's too big. But back, oh, I'm brushing off my hands. This you rinse so you can touch it. It doesn't leave charcoal dust. This is just habit. So looking again, the shtabi, the 3 shtabi, and then the dozumi, then a gicho, like a mallet head. This is a beautiful gicho from furo. Beautiful. Like croquet, mallet head from the New Year's fire. And then a wari gicho, then another gicho, and then a kuruzumi, and a divided, a half length. And then you put 5 edazumi in your sumitori, but you always leave 1 in the basket, in the fukube, and then the tenzumi, and then a tiger kogo forming a tai chi, an inenyo. You've seen it before, one of my favorites. It's marked ohiyaki, but in fact, it is not made by the ohi family. It's generic ohi, but these are the measurements. And you can study those when you get the, I say these on my notes, that when you get the study guide, you can spend hours playing with them. I have a picture of the huge dozumi. Do is body. In furo, it works out really nicely because you have the dozumi, which sounds like the body, or earth do, and then water, round, and then the 3-cornered is the fire one, and then the kudazumi, which is the long skinny one, which is tubular, wind, and then the smallest one, the tenzumi, the temai, the 5 elements, the complete, which represents the go bin no to, which is the lantern, the furo, even the row, done in a very, very different way. Our next picture are gourds, which I cut. Elaine Lubin got some gourds, and to make flower containers. She's been a master of tea ceremony for a number of years, quite a few years, and has a garden, and I get flowers from her garden. And she got some gourds, and we were going to make hana ire, but the gourd sort of took over, and I made a hi-ire. The near left one is I used for a hi-ire. And if you were here for that lecture, you might remember that I said it didn't get hot. It was slightly warm. And the middle-sized one I used not too long ago as a kensui, because these gourds have been used for thousands of years to hold water and grains and other things. And the large one in the back is the fukube. They're all fukubes, hisago, hyotan. And that large one is for charcoal. For opening the row, you want to have that large one. There's a whole monogatari about what and how to use that large gourd, the fukube. It should be new for the opening of the row for some people. Well, I wondered, why is the bottle gourd so popular in symbolism? Well, the bottle gourd looks like a number 8, but the bottle gourd itself, I only learned this recently, is almost all water. And they sell bottle gourd juice at health food stores. Bottle gourd juice has been used for hundreds of, probably thousands of years. So it's become sort of the emblem of water. And it's healthful, very healthful. let's just briefly go through because the 108 minutes is ticking away. Here are some some sumi utensils, the kan and the left feather, and the wood-handled hibashi, that's kuwa wood. Kuwa was plentiful. It's not so plentiful now, so they used it for many, many things. And then the ash spoon, the haisaji, to sprinkle the damp ash over the surface of the roe. These are for roe. The kan can be used for any kama, any furo or roe. They're pine needles in a circle, which I love. They're the same length as the hibashi. So moving on, these are some other utensils used usually not in the presence of the guest, the sokotori, which scoops out the fire at the end of your presentation. And if it's a little bit difficult to tell, but the spoon is flat, so it's at a right angle to the handle. And if you measure the spoon, it is 1 shaku kane, and the fire tongs, the naga, long hibashi, fire rods, they're 1 shaku kujira. And that ash, the shimeshi ash, usually carried in a bowl, you need a rather large amount of it. And this bowl is about 6 and 7 sun wide. It happens to be that size. It was made by Stephen Murphy for me. He's made many, many things, including the lamp in the garden, and many, many, many things. And moving on, sweets. The sweet, I may have mentioned last time, the dish on the left is makoto yabe. Well, it's an absolutely beautiful dish, and it has wonderful, wonderful memories. He's been gone for too long, joined the angels long, long ago. So sad. I wanted to use it, but it makes the yokan like an afterthought. So I used the shino dish that's given as a souvenir for New Year's. And so the rat designed yokan from Minamoto Kichoan in San Francisco, thanks to our other producer, Tanya Valentine in San Francisco, organizing our gallery. And she sent that to me. And I said last time, if you like, cut the yokan in slices, which I did. This is what I did about 4 days ago to make a wafer. It's completely dry. It dries. You know that yokan is sticky and wet, but here it is, and I'm going to have it now, not while I'm talking, but I'm going to have it, and then a bowl of tea. So let's move on to the chaide, which again is the gourd. It seems to be a theme. It's endless, endless. It's gen, it's mystery, mystery. You can see into the first part, sort of, but you can't see into the next part. So the bottle gourd has become an emblem of eternity. It also looks like the number 8, but I don't think the Buddhists who admire it so may now look at it as a number 8, but probably just simply as gen, as in Gengensai. And the shifuku is takarazakushi, many, many endless treasures. This is part of the suehiro. The cord is suehiro. It's endless. It's a circle. It's a sort of messy, not messy, irregular circle, but it is an endless knot. That took me only about 35 years to figure out. And maybe this is the snake that's wrapped around the, anyway, let's move on to our chashaku. Our chashaku was made by Kuroda Joji. He is the son. I'm sure that sons don't always relish being called the son of somebody famous. Oh, it's nice, but they would rather be known for themselves. But his father was a ningen kokuho of woodworking, Kuroda Tatsuaki. I used a chawan made by him in the past lecture. Tatsuaki made the tomozutsu, the bamboo tube, and that's his having achieved 77 years stamp. When I got this 35 years ago, I thought 77, how old can you get? Well, that was, for me, 5 years ago. But the chashaku is very strong, unique, really. Joji and his father, Tatsuaki, were 6'4", 6'4", 5", somebody may remember. Unfortunately, Joji has joined the Angel Band, so unfortunately, I can't know that. And the tea bowl is not raku, it's black. I like black bowls. And this is made of clay from an area called Nachi, Kumano Nachi. And Kumano Nachi is famous for its black stone that makes the Go stones for the game of Go. And this looks like those shiny black stones. Coincidentally, perhaps, the black stones are, well, yes, maybe an inch across, are paired with white seashells that are made from clamshell. And they are kept separate, black stones in one container and white shell in another. They're still called stones. That the covered bowls are made of natsume wood. So I think the natsume originally was made out of natsume wood. And because it's not raku, for koicha, it needs a kobuksa. And so the kobuksa I have is enshu takara, and these are the endless treasures, the takara zakushi. And you can see there is suehiro everywhere. Absolutely gorgeous fabric. I hesitate to fold them, but they would be kept in the pocket. Oh, let me show you something here live and in person. This is a fukusabasami. You know that if you have one. This one has a flap to keep it all inside. This is theoretically a man's and it's Rikyu style. And I always wondered, well, why do I put my bundle, my kaishi, my kobuksa, and my fuksa? Why do I have to put it in there with my left hand? I mean, I could put it in with my right hand, and why not? But I realized just the other day that these, just like this, go into my kimono like this with my right hand. So the pocket of the fukusabasami is equivalent to my tokoro, my kimono place. Does that help some of you? Absolutely gorgeous fabric. And moving on, I know I'm over limit, but I found out some interesting things between the chasen and the bamboo futaoki. Rikyu made bamboo futaoki that were isun hachibu, 1 sun 8 bu, or 18 bu, of different styles. And the one, and these are upside down, by the way, you know that. The bamboo is upside down. That fushi, that node, is at the top, so that the root end is up in the air, like the whisk, exactly like the whisk. The whisk, in a way, is, those are its roots, because that is upside down. And although you can't see it, I can remember Mori Sensei years ago said that what is the shomen of a futaoki, bamboo futaoki? And she said, at the lowest part, it's not an even circle all the way around, it's the lowest part. Well, I didn't realize what that meant until recently, and that is that it's at that point that the bamboo cutter, the bamboo cutter measures from the fushi down or up, isun, to cut it. So that nakabushi for the row, that nakabushi, that's isun hachibu, separated by the fushi. But that isun kane is hachibu kujira. So so the bottom is 8 bu kujira and the top is 8 bu kane. I thought I discovered it, but if you went to I have several of these nakabushi futaoki, and I measured them, and almost all of them are isun kane. So they know what they're doing. I didn't know what was being done. But that rule is the low part is forward because that's where the measurement is. And then looking at the chasen, well, you know, the fushi is off. Well, it is, but you see the lowest part where the fushi is, the lowest point is right at the thread of the chasen. The futaoki, one might wonder, porcelain. This was a gift when I was coming to Boston to teach. This was a farewell gift. It's a bobbin thread wrapper made of porcelain, very Kyoto. It has a bridge. Also, the top does look like a couple of fans. So that's why I picked it. And I thought it looked nice with everything. This is Sometsuke. The artist's signature on the bottom is unreadable to me. So maybe somebody one day could read it. But with the row and a tana, you want something other than green bamboo, generally speaking. Going on now to 3. This is sort of a preview of Shingyo-so, which is my next topic, or my next topics for next time around. This is before I realized about the lowest point. I was just hiding the cracks. But look at that on the left. That's a fukinuki. I said that wrongly earlier, fukinuki, air through, and a tembushi and a nakabushi, the 3 styles. The one on the left has no fushi, fushi nashi. So it's rather like the bamboo shin chashaku that has no fushi. And then our kensei, given to me by one of my great, great dear friends. Yes, it's bizen, absolutely wonderful. It's quite rugged and handsome, and it goes nicely with that porcelain futaoki, which would be carried inside. So our next image is, at least I think, if we can move on, is the water pitcher, the mizutsugi. This was made by Makoto, who made the dish. I had readied a katakuchi mizutsugi for the event today, but not unfortunately, it's not the appropriate mizutsugi for this particular tana. The mizusashi must be taken out to be replenished, and we usually use, according to the Orasenke tradition, a blackened copper yakkan called a koshiguro. I thought I would use Makoto's because it's a circle, and there's a circle right there on the side. And then usucha, moving on to Usacha. This is from a very reputable lacquer dealer, even though it's not wood. It's Suehiro, fans everywhere. And our chawan for today is very much in the season of the new year with absolutely ravishing designs, seasonal floral elements. And our fuxa for today has a rat on it. And this was from 1996. Gorgeous fuchsia, that purple. I'm just so crazy about purple. I think almost everyone is. And then I asked last week if anybody had an idea of, or why what this bar was. It may have gone unnoticed, but it's a bunchin. Good. The bunchin, that's one image. We're seeing the top and the bottom, as it were, because it's a paperweight. You put it down. And it has, well, you can see in the picture, it has an arabesque on the flat side. And just some coins, money is everything, some coins on the top. But this flat side with the arabesque or karaksa reminds me very much of the karaksa that's often the pattern of the ichimonji of a hanging scroll. I think you can see the parallels. That is the karaksa of a scroll hanging in my Tokonoma. I don't think too many people know this, but if you put, you're looking at a long scroll and you want just the part that's 3 or 4 or 5 feet of the image that you want, you need to hold it with something. And the bunchin is the thing, a thing. And it's karaksa, arabesque. So I think the ichimonji, 2 of them, peekaboo, 2 of them, one at one end, one at the other end to keep it from rolling up. And then they got the idea, oh, well, let's just take this part and make a hanging scroll out of it. And we'll have a suggestion of the bunchin at the top and the bottom. And then our last picture, well, second to last, let me see if we can get through it rather quickly. We had a peekaboo of it. This is a drawing I made, maybe 25, 30 years ago, of the various interconnections between dogu. And those of you who will be getting the study guide, maybe you can study it, but they're all so interconnected. It's really quite remarkable. And this is before, well, this is 30-some, 25-some years ago. And I'm just now beginning to understand. Now, our last picture is of a fantasy that I have about how the Togudo of Ginkakuji, which has the first 4.5 mat room for serving tea, the dojinsai, the upper right-hand corner room, that yojohan. Well, I've divided it all up to make a kind of yojohan. And Amida, let me go back just a little bit, the room that has Buddha room on it, you see the row, you see where I've drawn the row. Well, that in the Togudo is half of where the image of Amida is located. That's an 8-mat room. There's a 6-mat room to the upper left, then the dojinsai, the upper right, and then the long yojo han along the lower right. And so one would enter the long yojo han, the long format, and slide through the nijiri guchi which would be in the near right-hand corner. But if the whole building were a yojo-han, the row would be where Amida is, just as the Amida kettle is in the middle of my room. So I'm going to have my sweet and then have tea.
Great. I'll switch the view to you making tea.
So wonderful. I haven't done roe in quite a long time. This bowl is rather thin, shelled. Kyoryaki often is quite thin, so you have to be very careful with your hot water to not have too much. But because my room is cool, I will circulate some water on me as well. Hope you didn't see that too closely. Always a new chakin. Not for class, nice, but no. There's this wonderful time when some fellow asked Rikyu to get him a wonderful tea utensil to make the best tea. Gave him a lot of money. And Rikyu bought him a very large bolt of chakin fabric. That is a generous amount because today is a day for a generous amount. And this is the first time that I have used Joji's chashaku. Thank you, Thomas. Anthony, questions?
Yes, Sensei, can you still hear me over there?
Yes, I can.
Okay. One question I'm sure we're all dying to know is where can we get a Tana like this?
Well, I will be in touch with Thomas. Thomas and I have known each other from when he was in Boston. He's now in various parts of the world, has been for many years, but is now in New Jersey. So I'm going to drink my tea. So I will be in touch with Thomas. In fact, I think Thomas is watching. Now, there were 6 pieces of charcoal, those little ones, the bamboo ones. And they have kept this, it was hot. There was water almost boiling. And that was a good hour ago, and we still have some steam. There is the slightest matsukaze. So it's really, I am so happy to have our Tana here. Yes, so I'll come back to this place and focus my attention on questions.
Okay. Yes, so we have some other questions. One question is, could you comment on the different materials used for the row interior, the metal, plaster, and stone, and is there any philosophical implications there?
Yes, the original and truest form of the row is, to the best of my knowledge, is a rather large wooden box that's filled with wattle and daub. It's built rather like a house, an old traditional house. And it's larger, must be larger than the opening, the 14-sun opening of the floor. And the finish, traditions are so incredibly complex. The finish is sand finish. So it's wattle and daub, and then the finish that you actually have is a very fine sand, but it's sand nonetheless, just as walls of the traditional chashitsu of many tea huts originally have a sand finish on the wall. And that's the reason why there's paper along the floor. It goes up about a shaku along the wall to protect the wall from abrasion so that the sand won't rub off. And another form, I had one when I was living in Kyoto, and I made a tea room out of a yojohan. It didn't have a row. I asked the owner if I could put a row in, and I did, and it was ceramic, and it was made in the ohi style. So it had that amber color finish. It was smooth, not sandy, it was smooth, but it sort of looked like it. And this one here is copper. And when it's brand new, it's shiny, but it darkens. And I like it rather sort of darkened because it looks more like a sand finish. There's also iron. I saw several iron ones. It's just the shell and the dan itself, not solid. That would be impossible. But I wanted to bring my ohi style ceramic one because it was earthen, but the copper one was more easily transportable, and I'm glad. For those of you who do tea presentations, I like to use the word presentation rather than demonstration. Sounds like how to use a mix master. To get an aluminum furokama, I know. Bronze and iron, I know. Lugging it around, I know. Filled with ash. You need somebody young and strong, like both of my producers, but they also know the benefits of aluminum. They're beautiful. If you didn't know that it was lightweight aluminum, you wouldn't know. They're beautifully done. The Japanese can do almost anything beautifully. So.
Yeah, another question is, and just I forgot to invite people to join us on video and yeah, for the tea, but sorry about that. But another question was, someone found the Shingyo-so orientation very interesting. Maybe somebody from another school, and they were wondering, when did this originate? Do you know what generation?
On which part of Shingyo-so?
The imai in the Tamaiza.
The imai, I don't know. It's probably Gengensai. Gengensai organized everything. In a way, he almost had to, because the government wanted, the people in charge of the government wanted to modernize, become westernized. So they wanted to get, whoever they were, wanted to get rid of all this fussy old stuff. And the Iemotos of all this stuff said, I don't think so. So Gengensai and many other of the Iemoto of all traditional arts wrote letters saying that this is not something to discard. This is our heritage. You know that Okakura Tenshin who wrote the Book of Tea, he was here in Boston and he was giving lectures at Isabella Stewart Gardner's home here. And these lectures were turned into the Book of Tea. And the Book of Tea went to Japan in Japanese and started the keeping of thousands of Japanese artifacts. They were using Buddhist images to heat food, maybe. So the Ningen Kokuho, the Kokuho stuff, began at that time. Imagine Westerners went and almost demanded, I don't know how they got into these secret Buddhist images that no one has seen, got in to see. Yeah, Shingyoso, probably Gengensai.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was intended that when you do Shin no Gyo Daisu, you know where to aim, but not where to aim. Here, but not where there.
Yeah, the geometry is definitely interesting as I've learned creating the image. There's some other questions, but I'm afraid we've kind of gone over a little bit here. And I think we all might have some cause for some celebration today. So I don't want to keep people too long. So maybe I just invite people into I'm going to turn on gallery mode, and if people can turn on their video and even their microphone, and maybe we can all thank Sensei together. And Sensei, arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, Sensei.